You need more time? We good? All right. So we left off talking about on Friday we're talking about the stock market crash. And when was the stock market crash? What was the date? Cassie, go ahead. Yep, good job. October 29th, 1929. What do they refer that day as? Black Tuesday. Yep, good job. Good job. But did we see this depression coming from different angles? So I know we mentioned a little bit before about how this depression was coming, not only just in the industry and the marketplace, the economy, but even in the mid 1920s, we saw some issues. And where were those issues coming from? You remember. Eddie, you had your hand up. Yeah. You're kind of nodding your head anyway. I was like, oh yeah, he's getting it. Where do we see these issues coming from at first? It's not in the industries, not in the marketplace, but somewhere else. Yeah, the agriculture. Good job. Good job. And what was the issue with the agriculture in the United States? So building up to World War One. No, go ahead. Yeah, good job. Good job. So building up to World War One, as the United States is getting involved in this international, this global conflict, our government decided to pump a lot of funding and obviously helping these farmers out to produce as much crops and food as possible to help our troops on the front line. Okay, we all know that the United States, we weren't prepared for this war. Okay, when you look at the industrialization, the modernization of many of these European countries like Germany, like Great Britain, like France, okay, their militaries were just more modern, right? There's no way we could compete, but we could compete in different ways. So with our production, okay, and especially with our food. So for so many years, since 1917, moving up in the mid 1920s, farmers were just producing as much crops as possible. All right. And they were lending a lot of money while they're gaining a lot of money. They're loaning a lot of money from the banks to purchase more land, to purchase more tractors, obviously to grow their farms, their plantations, to help with this supply. Right. But after a while, once the war ended, no one told them to stop. The government never intervened and told them to slow down their production. So what happens to prices? They drop. And do you think these farmers can pay back these loans? Kale? No. So what happens to their farms? What happens to their way of life? Do they lose it? Yeah, unfortunately they do. So there's a lot of issues even in the mid 1920s, moving to the late 1920s, where many farmers just lost their way of life, lost their farms, lost their assets really, and this problem with agriculture. So we talked about that on Friday, okay, and then yesterday, you guys obviously watched the video lesson on Hawley-Smoot tariff. So to way to combat against some of these compiling issues, what did the government decide to do with the Hawley-Smoot tariff? What did they decide to do? Describe this for me here. What did you write down? What did you write down? Griffin, what did you write down? Yeah, describe the Hawley-Smoot tariff. What did it do?
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, good job. Good job. So the idea of the government with this tariff was to put tariffs or a tax on goods coming from foreign countries. All right. So what does that do then? What does that do then? So if you're a consumer in the United States and you see a tax or let's say a tariff on foreign goods, let's say you're in the market to buy a car, right? So obviously you have Chevy, you have Ford, American made, right? And all of a sudden you see these taxes, these increased prices on, let's say Toyota, Honda, or BMW, or let's say Volkswagen. I don't know. So where are you most likely going to buy or purchase your car from? Go ahead. The U.S. made dealership. Why? Because it's cheaper, right? There's no tax, there's no tariff on that good. So this is going to try to aim Americans to purchase these items that are cheaper and that they're what? American made. So what will that do to our economy? It'll boost it, right? So overall, it's a good idea, good plan, right? But what are some drawbacks to it? What do you think? What do you think these foreign countries are going to do to American-made products? No? Yeah, they're going to do the same exact thing, right? They're going to put tariffs, taxes on these types of products going to foreign marketplaces. All right, good. And we already mentioned it. After World War One, all these European countries are dependent on U.S. manufacturing, right? The U.S. economy. So after a little bit of time, 10 years or so, okay, obviously they have industrialization. They have the means to produce their own goods and products. But once they start really eliminating the American product in their marketplace, what's going to happen? Well, these people are going to purchase, obviously, their own domestic made goods and products, but that's going to hurt the international marketplace, right? That's going to cause a lot of issues between countries when it comes to trade wars, and that they're just going to tax and tariff all these goods coming from other countries. So this is going to put it more in isolationist mode, where these countries are just going to focus on their own economy, focus on their own forms of production, and they're really cutting out trade partners. So do you think this Dawes plan is going to work anymore? No, no. After the stock market crash, it failed, but there's no way it can continue to grow if there's going to be tax and tariffs on these imported goods. Right? This international market's just going to collapse. So in all reality, did the Hawley-Smoot tariff work? No, no, it didn't. It created more problems. It created international problems to a point where these countries couldn't trust each other when it comes to trade. So what is this going to maybe lead to? Warfare, right? So when we're looking at World War II, when we get to the causes of the Second World War, we're going to look back at the Hawley-Smoot tariff and realize all of our economies are going against one another. We're all competing against one another rather than opening up trade and actually having some sort of entrepreneurship and partnership, right? And this is going to cause many more problems between these countries that leads to hostility. Man, there's a lot going on, isn't there? So obviously the economic depression is going to cause many problems, but tariffs like this is just going to make things worse to a point where it's just going to lose sight of any type of peace that was established. The League of Nations is going to crumble really under this type of tariff as these economies are going against one another. All right, so that was yesterday's lesson. Hopefully you guys got all that down and wrote some notes. Like and subscribe. Okay. Okay. Terms for today. So I must have left one out on Friday. I apologize. Just want to make sure you have it. Maybe you did have it. I'm not sure. I know I talked about it. The bread line. We talked about the bread. I know we talked about it, but was it on your vocab terms? Okay, there you go. There you go. Like and subscribe. I was gonna put one of your videos in yesterday, but I decided not to. Show some love to the Wolf Boys Garage. Yep. Yeah, we can have like a partnership here. I'll share some of your videos. You know, you share some of mine. We can build subscribers. Yeah. We can make it to the top. Do it for the rest of my life then. All right. Who knows? Maybe I'll show up to one of your videos when you're working on a tractor. Special guest. Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Yep. Get to it. You guys could use a little bit more of that since I don't know, really hit a drawback with Lime Out and Susquehanna. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe these guys don't take the drills serious enough, I guess. I thought you would be. Thanks so much. Really?
Yes. Oh my.
Is that Saturday or Sunday?
I don't know. It's a weekday.
Oh, yeah. That was hockey. There's always a slide there. Was it like a special night? I know they do like $1.
Yeah, it was $3 ticket.
Oh, there you go. Hey, that's worth it.
We always go.
Yeah. Triple circles. You and Sean. I guess Sean's a pro at that. That's all he was doing Friday. Drawing circles. I know, right? Wow. Griffin, Tanner's not here, but Griffin, Friday current events. All right, so we already talked about the Hawley-Smoot tariff. Trickle-down economics, what do we got? We mentioned this during the pre-test. This was last week. What was it, Thursday? What do we have for trickle-down economics? Gabe, what do you have?
They set tax breaks and benefits for corporations and about the trickle down to everybody else.
Yeah, good job. So this is an idea where the government will give tax breaks to wealthy elite business owners. Let's just say that, okay? And these people will maybe use these tax breaks to do what? Maybe build more businesses or have a new way of investment, okay, for many people in the economy. So if these people that are creating jobs, okay, or creating forms of industries and factories, if they have a little bit extra money, chances are that this will inspire more economic growth, that this will make them create more industries or more factories or partner with another company to create jobs for people. Ideally, that's something that maybe should work. But do you think it does? No. What do you think these business owners, these people, the elite status do with that tax break? They just save it. They hold on to it. During a time of depression, it's really hard to start a business up, right? Okay, because you're low in resources, low in materials. So in all reality, this was a great idea, great plan, but it really just doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. Now, in some cases, okay, I won't say it totally doesn't work. In some cases, this is good because these business owners, people that are from elite status, if they have a little extra cash, chances are they're making the risk to give people opportunities to create more jobs for people, right? And obviously people in the middle class, lower class, they see these tax exempts for the higher class. What do you think causes? What do you think happens? It causes a lot of issues within society because here they are struggling just to put food on the table, the lower middle class, and all of a sudden now taxes are being exempt for some of these elite status people. Doesn't make any sense, right? So you can see the problems. All right, Hooverville, what do we got? Go ahead, Noah. Okay, yeah. So these are makeshift communities, makeshift homes outside of urban areas, really because of the Great Depression. People losing their jobs, losing their apartments, their homes, and they have to try to reside somewhere else. So outside of these larger urban areas like Philadelphia, like New York City, Chicago, okay, these makeshift communities were formed. And I'll show you some pictures today of some Hoovervilles. Not the gym. All right. I know, right? All right, so we talked about the Hawley-Smoot tariff yesterday, okay? And because of the depression and because many of these compiling issues are all happening with agriculture, okay, we mentioned how farmers were even burning their crops, burning their supplies because the government didn't help them out. And prices were just so low that they never regulated the prices for these farmers to make money. And in many cases, it was obviously a sad sight where a lot of these food supplies were just burned up or destroyed by the farmers. And it just showed a lack of interest, a lack of support these farmers might have for the government. It's just like they can't trust it anymore. Right? So Hoovervilles become home. So this is kind of what these Hoovervilles would look like, these makeshift homes. As you can see, these people are just grabbing anything what they can to make a house out of it. Can you imagine living in a home like that? Let's say outside of Philadelphia or New York City, it'd be terrible. There's no insulation. There's no running water. There's no electricity. And these people suffered, really. just trying to make a home outside of these areas. These people have no jobs. Okay, their only source of food are bread lines, where they go to these urban areas to really hope and pray and beg for food, okay, as they line up as maybe the community supplies this for them. And I mentioned on Friday, these bread lines really didn't have too much substance to it. It was really just broth or literally water that they're feeding the people. There's not much resources or food to it because many of these farmers are just destroying their supplies. All right, so anyway, these Hoovervilles were all becoming prevalent outside these urban areas. It's a sad, sad sight, and it really just shows and symbolizes the Great Depression. So whenever you look up the Great Depression or you see pictures of it, many times you'll see Hoovervilles. Okay, why they call them Hoovervilles? Well, they're blaming Herbert Hoover for it. Right, they're blaming Herbert Hoover for it. He was the president during the time, and as a Republican president during the 1920s, many of these presidents thought that the good times will continue to roll and that government should have a hands-off approach. And in many cases, that's true, right? The less government intervention, the better things might be for the private sector. But especially during the Depression and the stock market crash and problems with the agriculture, maybe government needs to step up. Maybe they needed to have some sort of regulation, not too much, but something to try to benefit these workers and benefit these farmers. So people just made shift communities outside of these urban areas. Like I said, just breaking apart old signs, okay, old pieces of wood, tin, whatever they could get their hands on, and slap together these homes. And again, very unfortunate that people would actually live this way in American society. You go from the highest standard of living we've ever seen in the 1920s to literally living in a makeshift shed, right, in these urban areas. So again, sad, sad sight. You guys ever hear what a Hoover flag is? A Hoover flag? No, what is it? What's that? Oh, no, that's not it. You're talking about like the Okies, the people that kind of walk around with, whatever they can have inside that little blanket around the stick.
Yeah.
No, you guys ever ask if you have any money and you just pull your pocket out? That's a Hoover flag, because these people will walk around the streets looking for an opportunity. And this is kind of symbolizing that they have no money. They have no way of life anymore. And literally everybody would walk around the streets. It looks foolish, but with their pockets out. And this was kind of a political stance in a way. This was a symbol showing, hey, Herbert Hoover really screwed us over, right? He didn't do anything to help us out. And now we're living in shambles. We're living in homes like this, okay, in Hoovervilles. And these tent cities that are sprung up all around the country. And just showing that they have no resources. They have no money. They have no way of providing for the family. And this is kind of what, like I said, the Hoover flag looked like. Anybody know what a Hoover blanket is? A Hoover blanket? Mr. Hoover knows. No, I'm just joking. What's a Hoover blanket? A newspaper. Yep, good job. A newspaper. Okay, it just goes to show really how poor the country really was. And it came to a point where they're just poking fun and making fun of the situation. Obviously, it's something not to laugh about. Okay, it caused many people a lot of hardships and a lot of problems. And many people committed suicide during this time period because it just looked like there's no hope. And these names kind of sprung out, like Hoovervilles, Hoover flags, Hoover blankets. It was a terrible, terrible time. And so Hoover flag, yeah. Hoover blanket, like I said, in newspapers. Oh, terrible, terrible stuff. All right, so making a stand. Like I mentioned, many of the farmers, I already talked about this on Friday, but many of the farmers, because these prices were so low, they just decided to destroy many of their supplies. And this was a stance against the government, showing that the government didn't step up to try to regulate these prices and give these people some sort of fair share, or maybe extending the loans that they owed to the bank or lowering the interest level. Government just didn't do that. And a lot of people look at Herbert Hoover because he didn't try to stand up. He didn't try to help and benefit these people in these hard times. So again, farmers really taking a stance and destroying their supplies because prices were so low. If the price or if these their supplies and products and their life's work were that low to the government and meaningless, well, they're just going to destroy it. And again, a lot of that supplies, a lot of that food could have went to what? The bread lines, right? They could have went to the soup kitchens to help benefit these people in these communities. But government didn't do anything to try to help and benefit these farmers in producing or purchasing these crops to help give these people a livelihood. All right, the last thing I want to talk about really is just the trickle-down economics and how this was an idea that Herbert Hoover would try to benefit and stimulate the economy. And this was looked and viewed upon as I guess you could say, unethical, right? Unethical. And the reason for it is because you're giving a tax break to the elite status. You're giving less taxes that people have to pay at the higher end, okay, to the elite status people, to the people that own businesses, that have a step up in, let's say, the marketplace, the economy, and in just social economic life. All right. So if you're giving, let's say, a tax exempt to these business owners, chances are they're going to try to inspire more economic growth. They're going to try to grow their businesses to a point where this will give people more opportunities, give them more jobs, right? And this was a way that the government thought this will stimulate the economy, stimulate the private sector. If these business owners, like let's say Henry Ford, okay, if he had a tax exempt at the time, chances are he'll create more businesses that will produce cars, okay, automobiles, right? This might try to inspire more economic growth in the United States, giving people more opportunities for the workplace. Try to crack away at that unemployment rate, which was at 25%, okay, during this time period. But business owners like Henry Ford, knowing the supply is so large, do you think he's going to try to create more jobs for people to produce more cars or automobiles? What do you think, Cale? No, he won't. And the reason for it is because the market's already saturated with these products, with these finalized goods, with these cars, let's just say. So for him to try to utilize this extra money that he's getting from tax exempts to produce more automobile manufacturing, more businesses, that's just not going to happen. So these business owners, I'm just using Henry Ford as an example, they just pocket the money, right? They don't try to boost the economy by purchasing more, let's say, land or inspiring more growth in the marketplace. They just pocket it. Or in some cases, they invest it in other businesses that might be doing a little bit better during the Depression, which really didn't happen too often, obviously. So this is causing more issues and more problems. The middle class, the lower class, who are living in Hoovervilles, okay, that are just barely getting by and being fed by the bread lines, they see these tax exempts to the upper class and figure, well, this isn't helping us out at all. All the government cares about is our business owners, our wealthy elite status people. And this caused revolts and riots all across the country, to a point where this caused many issues, compiling issues for the government. All right, is there any questions? Does everybody understand trickle-down economics? So again, if you give a tax exempt to the elite status, the business owners, maybe this will create more innovation, create more factories, businesses for the middle class. So with a little bit more money that the wages they make, they'll spend that out in the economy, right? So you can see how that trickles down, hence the name. All right, that's what I got.